Something amazing is going to happen in a few days. Listen to this incredible, impressive story. In 1978, Natan Sharansky, a Jew from Soviet Russia, was wrongly and unfairly accused by the KGB, Soviet Russia, of espionage. Why? Because he helped Jews study Hebrew and fulfill the dream of reaching the land of Israel. And for the KGB, Soviet Russia, the dictatorship, that was considered espionage against the regime. They arrest and imprison him. So why am I telling you this? And how does it relate to what's happening soon? Listen, it's impressive. I'm going to share some things with you, and if you connect them, you'll receive an incredible blessing. Listen, it's impressive. Natan Sharansky, set himself a goal. I'll say it in my own words. The goal is to be free even in the pit of the carnival. Prison of Soviet Russia. How? I'm going to tell you some impressive anecdotes. Whatever the KGB told him, whatever the Soviet prison told him, the police, he did the opposite. For example, I'll give you an example. They forcibly took away his book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms. Think about his wife Vital, with so much love. They got married and he was arrested, and he gave Vital the book of Psalms as a gift. Obviously for him, it wasn't just a book of Psalms, it was much more than that. It was the connection to his wife and of course the connection to God. You can read the Psalms of King David, obviously on a spiritual level. The connection with his wife obviously had immense value, and they really took it away from him by force. Now listen to what happens when they are released. Listen, ellipsis, wait a moment. What's happening? What he did, as I told you, in prison, basically, he would say, I'm free. In my own words, I'm free. And everything they arbitrarily told him to do, he would do the opposite. Because he would say, they won't take away my freedom. In fact, something very interesting, when they ordered his imprisonment, he said something very strong to the judge. He told him like this, I'll say it in my own words. He said, you are the one who will be imprisoned. You are the one who doesn't have freedom. And I, who in a few minutes will be in a very tough prison, I will be free. The judge looked at him and said, why are you telling me this? I don't get it. I'm free to do what I want and go where I please. He said, no, Nathan Janowski said. You know very well that you sentenced me because that's what you are told to do. You paid attention to what the regime says, and you know that I am innocent, that I am really not a threat to the regime. Me, what did I do? I taught Hebrew or studied Hebrew. I was part of a group to teach Hebrew. To fulfill the dream of reaching the land of Israel, God willing, when we are able to go up to the land of Israel. I didn't do anything against Russia. I didn't do anything. I just wanted to live my Judaism and be part of a group that loves. Where does it come from? And you know that you imprisoned me completely at random because you are a prisoner and a slave to what you are told to do. And why are you free? Are you going to be a slave in a few minutes? That's true. On the outside, I'm going to be a slave. On the inside, no one is going to tell me what to do. What I feel and what I think, no one can tell me what to do about that. That is something only God and I know, and no one is going to touch that. And in fact, you'll see how at the end of his imprisonment, he fulfilled it and then some. Listen to the book of Psalms and what this is going to be. Impressive. 9 years imprisoned before, thank God, arriving in the land of Israel and reuniting with his wife, Vital, who waited for him in the land of Israel. And he made many diplomatic efforts, obviously surely praying and working through diplomatic channels too. And thank God they gave him his freedom and he arrived in the land of Israel. Look, this story is impressive, look. I want you to connect it and actually tell me in the comments what connection you make with this story from about 49 years ago. 48, 47 years ago. I'm about to share what's happening in a few days. Tell me in the comments what connection you see, in parentheses. I'll continue. The day of his release arrives. Two incredible things happen. He's about to be released. Imagine the suffering he went through, the longing to see his wife again after 9 years in prison. His deep longing to reach Israel was an incredible dream. He comes out, but before leaving, he says, please, I want my book of Psalms. Please, I want you to give it to me. They look at him and say, what book of Psalms? You forcibly took from me the book of Psalms that my beloved wife Vital gave me. I want it back. Do you think that we know where the book of Psalms is? Please, get out of here. Imagine snow. He jumped and held on, I don't know if it was to a stick or what, and he said, imagine the press. The people, the journalists, that was obviously a very, very impressive moment in history. And he was holding on, saying, I'm not leaving this prison until they give me back the book of Psalms. Obviously, the police there didn't know what to do. They started searching. They started searching through the boxes, looking for what belonged to him, until, thank God, they found the book of Psalms and gave it back to him. Impressive. Very good. He grabs the book of Psalms and leaves. Very good. There was a bridge and they took him in a car, a policeman, probably the KGB. And he said, well, here's a bridge. On the other side of the bridge, another car is waiting for you and they'll take you to the airport. So you go straight, walk straight to the other car and continue your life. Natan Sharansky got up, he got up. One moment, what did he start doing? Zigzag. He started to walk in a zigzag because they told him to go straight to the other car, to the other vehicle. He said, until the very last moment I will be free, I will do the opposite of what they randomly tell me. And he risked his life too. Think about it. Maybe this KGB officer or wherever he was from could have gotten angry and done something very, very harmful to his life, God forbid. And here we see that Natan Sharansky guarded his inner freedom as an incredible treasure. He fought until the very last moment, and thank God he made it to Israel. He arrived, he reunited with his wife, he made it to Israel. Thank God, it's incredible. I'll tell you what will happen soon, and I want you to connect the dots for me. In a few days, it's the 10th day of the month of Nisan, according to the Hebrew calendar. All right, what is the 10th of Nisan? The 10th of Nisan is a day many people aren't aware of, so now we're going to why. 3,337 years ago, almost 3,300 years before the story of Natan Sharansky, when the people of Israel were in Egypt. Many people know about the exodus of the people of Israel from Egypt, which was on the 15th of the month of Nisan. But on the 10th of Nisan, which is in a few days, something incredible, something impressive happened. If you understand what happened, it's relevant to your life today. And I'll explain why. I'll explain why this is relevant to your life today before telling you what happened. You have to understand that the festivals of the Israeli people, you have to know that the 15th day of Nisan is the day of the Jewish Passover. Pesach, the Leil Seder, the night of the Pesach Seder. Leil Seder, the day we left the slavery of Egypt towards freedom. That is the 15th day of the month of Nisan. Very well. That is really famous. People know it. The Jewish Passover, the day of Pesach. Very well. Now, why do I tell you that it's relevant to your life today? You have to understand that time is like a spiral. It's like a spiral. And God gave to the people of Israel what we could call spirals in time. Basically, each holiday has and hides an essence, what we could call in our words, an energy. That year after year forms a great spiral, that there is an axis, that every year returns to the same point on the axis, but one step higher than the previous one. That is, imagine a giant spiral, there is an axis, and every year, for example, during the Jewish Passover, Pesach, that axis rises in the spiral and goes up. Now, the energy repeats itself again. Therefore, that energy of liberation that existed 3,337 years ago repeats itself every year. That special light from the exit of slavery to the entrance into freedom returns every year. And it's an energy of impressive strength. Therefore, why do I say it's relevant to you? Because if you are aware of what is going to happen in a few days, both on the 10th of Nisan and the 15th of Nisan, but today we are going to focus mainly on the 10th of Nisan, it is an incredible gift for you. Now, what happened on the 10th of Nisan before the exodus from Egypt, which was on the 15th of Nisan? On the 10th of Nisan, the people of Israel received a divine command from God to do something very, very peculiar. Remember, we were slaves in Egypt at that time. You have to consider that after hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt, it's incredible. The strongest opinion is that we were in Egypt for 210 years. You have to understand that children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, grandparents, think about it. Entire families were slaves with the minds and hearts of slaves. Think about it. You have masters who punish you, not just you, but your father and your grandfather, your great-grandfather and your son. What? God doesn't what? It means a mind and slavery of slaves. We were in a spiritual place at a very, very difficult spiritual level for the people of Israel. Think about it, from the land of Israel, we went down to Egypt, and in Egypt, years and years and years of slavery. And really, it was very difficult, very difficult, very difficult. Think of a Jew, the great-grandson whose great-grandfather was already a slave. A soldier, not a soldier, an Egyptian would walk by, and surely the Jew had to lower his gaze a little. He was his master. He could punish him just because obviously there were no rights. They did whatever they wanted with us. It was a very, very difficult situation. But what happened? Something very peculiar happened. On the 10th of Nisan, God commanded the people of Israel to take a young goat. What does it mean to take a young goat? You should know that goats and sheep were considered deities. They were idols for the Egyptians. Therefore, no one could touch a young goat. It was a matter of life and death. Imagine, God commands the people of Israel, God commands them to take a young goat, which was really something very dangerous, and we were still slaves. It was not yet the exodus from Egypt. It was all during the period of the famous plagues of Egypt, but we were still slaves. And the Egyptians would ask us, what are you doing with the young goat? Why are you taking it? Where are you taking it? To our houses? We have to tie it to our beds. For what? Because it's going to be an offering for the Passover offering, the Pesach offering, the Korban Pesach. An offering with a young goat? You have to think until the day we left, the 15th, back on the 14th of Nisan, which was the day before we left, when we did the Korban Pesach, the Pesach offering, which were the young goats, by divine order, by God's command. Young goats, which were deities, idols for the Egyptians, tied to our beds, and they explained themselves. Obviously, the Egyptians wanted to attack us, obviously, but God, thank God, did not allow them to. Now, I want to focus. If we look at it under a microscope, what did God ask of the Jews, of the Israeli people at that time? What did that act involve? What did that act involve? And here I want you to connect me with Natan Sharansky, with the story from the beginning. What did that act involve? It's impressive. When a slave does something against his master, think about the United States back when there were slaves, just to bring it closer to our own times. Think of any slave who does even the smallest thing against his master. Obviously, for a slave to do something against the master, he has to have a strength in his soul that is above normal, something extraordinary. Do you agree with me? And this was no small thing. It meant taking a deity, an idol. They worshipped goats and sheep and seizing it by force with a rope or something. The Egyptians, the masters, see us, we were still slaves, and not just have it for a minute to make the Pesach offering, but keep it for 4 days until the 14th of Nisan, which is the day before leaving Egypt. And to make the Pesach offering, that is, it was first of all a certain danger. And what did God ask of us? God asked us, purify yourselves. I'm saying this in my own words, as I understand it, purify yourselves. Purify yourselves. You are no longer slaves of the Egyptians. You are going to move from one phase to another, a completely different phase. You are going to become part of the people of Israel. You should know that in Egypt we were families. We still hadn't received the Torah at Mount Sinai. It was the process of transition from being families of the Hebrew people, of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, of the Hebrew people. Obviously, we had a common past, obviously, but we were families. See you later. We spent 50 days until we reached Mount Sinai. When we left Egypt, 50 days. We received the Torah, and that's when we truly became the people of Israel, the Jewish people, because we received the Torah, our connection to God. Then, what followed after 40 years in the land of Israel, but at that time it was a moment of transition, And God said, very soon you are going to move on to a completely different phase. You will no longer be slaves to men who treat you randomly and cruelly. You are going to become part of a people, the Israeli people, who will bring blessing and light to the nations. You will receive the Torah, you will be my children, you will follow my commandments, I will be your God. Obviously, I love you. I say in my words, obviously, I love you. I trust you that you will fulfill your mission in the world and help all of humanity to fulfill its mission in the world. That is to say, it will be a completely different phase. But for that, you need to break something that has kept you bound for many years. You are tied to a slavery by people who do whatever they want with you. You have to break something on an internal level. In fact, the word Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. The wise Kabbalists explain that Mitzrayim has the same, obviously it has the same letters as the word Maitzarim, and that's what the wise Kabbalists explain. Mitzrayim comes from the word tsar, Maitzar, which means narrow, something that constricts you, Mitzrayim. It wasn't Egypt, as it's called in English, or Egipto in Spanish. That's obviously something literal. The place is called Egypt. But we have to see that when we study Torah, we're not talking about random topics or interesting stories that happened. No, obviously the stories happened, but we always look for what the essence is, what the essence of what happens is. The essence is what God gives us through His teachings in the Torah. And what is the essence of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, that constrains you, and really Egypt brought us to a very, very difficult level of spiritual impurity. Obviously, the people of Israel were in a very, very precarious situation, very cruel people doing horrible things to us. Think about it, absolute oppressors. And we basically had to break, to shatter those oppressions and say, I can endure for 4 days. Against the masters, who were still masters, they could do whatever they wanted to us. We strengthened them in the Munai Vitayon, which is absolute faith in God and absolute certainty in God that God chose us. Obviously, the book of free will was very heated. As always, obviously it was. On one hand, there were truly the plagues and there were impressive things, an impressive divine revelation. But on the other hand, we were still slaves in Egypt. God still hadn't completely taken us out. That is, as I said, it was a very special moment of transition in which things were very intense. You really had to say, yes, I have faith in God. God chose the people of Israel. God is going to take us out of here. And I have the little goat. It's something, obviously, that involved, as we said, some forces of the neshama, of the soul, total, absolute. And we really were able to thank God we had that strength of emunah. Munai Vita John, faith and absolute trust in God. To have that little goat those days, so then really it would probably be the Korban Pesach, the Passover offering of Pesach. And then really God took us out of Egypt. Now I'm going to bring up another topic just before we wrap up that happened in the Sagrada. Coming out of Egypt is something very concrete, and I want to connect Nathan Sharansky, the little goat, and this story that I'm going to tell you. We left Egypt, just think, millions of people, families leaving Egypt. Suddenly Moses tells us, let's go back. We have to go back. Just imagine, we have to go back. Where do we have to go back to? Just imagine, days ago, moments ago. These people, oppressors, people who did terrible things to us, it was like walking into the lion's den going back. We want to go to the land of Israel. We want to receive the Torah. We want to move forward. No, we have to go back. That was also an impressive lesson from Moshe for us. Don't be afraid. I'm telling you we have to go back. I'm saying it in my own words, but everything happens for a reason and purpose. And here again comes this great lesson to break. to break from ourselves the fear of people, the fear of what others will say, the fear of the oppressors. You have to know that God, who are you afraid of? God, the Almighty Creator, loves you. He is with us. What are you afraid of? Let's go back. Don't be afraid. God is with us. Don't be afraid. And we had to go back and we had to return. Thank God, because we made it out. We went out to Egypt. God opened. The Almighty Creator opened the Yam Suf. Yam Suf, that's the Red Sea. Obviously, incredible miracles. The giving of the Torah, impressive, obviously. But we also had to break ties on the level of not fearing people who were the Egyptian oppressors, and also break with idolatry. You have to know that for many years the people of Israel were there with the Egyptians and they were idolaters, and all that had to be broken. With idolatry as well, the goat was no simple matter. They were idols, deities for the Egyptians, and we had to break that idolatry within us from our own hearts. And you also have to understand, 50 days after leaving Egypt, we received the Torah at Mount Sinai. God, the Almighty Creator, God, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, the declaration that Israel hears, God is our God. God is one, indivisible. God is the Almighty Creator. He is the source of everything, includes everything, is above everything, nothing. There is nothing outside of God. That is the oneness of God, the Almighty Creator. That was truly something impressive. But we must remember that not long ago, we were in Egypt, in a place full of avodah zarah, full of idolatries and idolatry. We had to break away from that as well. Therefore, God taught us on the 10th day of Nisan. ¿Cómo? How? First I ask you, and I ask you to write here in the comments, what do you connect? What does this say to you? How is this relevant to you today? How can you, on the 10th day of Nisan, really join the wave, the energy of leaving that Mitzrayim, that Mitzarim, that narrowness, that which constricts you, you can name it. What is it? What is it? It could be relationships, it could be money, it could be the search for honors. What could it be? That you don't feel happy with what you have on the level of emunah, of faith in God, of trust in God, in your work, in your studies, in whatever it may be. You can make a list for yourself. What is it that constrains me? You can write to me here in the comments what constrains you. And this video, what lessons does it give you? What tools does it give you? Know that if you can place the 10th of Nisan, it means every moment of your life matters. God always wants you to connect with Him, seeking His help and guidance. Speak to God in your own words, as our wise Kabbalists explain. Speak to God in a quiet moment, in a quiet place, every day of your life. Obviously, that is always welcome. It's amazing. But there are days of the year, like the 10th of Nisan or the 15th of Nisan, which is the Exodus from Egypt, the day of Pesach. These are such special days to leave that Mitzrayim, that narrowness, that slavery to what one has. Join that wave, that energy that God, as we said, in that spiral of time every year, God repeats in a certain way, but from a higher place, because the world keeps getting better and better. God leads His world from good to better. It's true that along the way there are ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs and ups, but the trend is always upward. It's always upward. God always leads His world from good to better. Therefore, we have to see, as they say in English, the big picture. We have to see the whole movie, the whole picture, and see that God loves His world, loves His creatures, loves you trusts you to fulfill your mission in the world. Therefore, God gives you pure moments, amazing energies. As we said, on the 10th of Nisan or the 15th of Nisan, you can really join that wave, that energy, and break free from that narrowness that binds you and pulls you down. Unfortunately, many people are tied to a past that drags them. It anchors them. It's like an anchor on a ship that pulls them down. Or they also look at a threatening future that scares them. What will happen? What about money? How will I work in this? How will I do it? How will I get it? In other words, a threatening future instead of feeling. Enter into a beautiful present, because the present is the gift that God gives you, which is your life. The future, God willing, will be fine. The past, learn from the past. Don't get stuck, learn. Think, what can I learn? But always with a positive outlook. What can I learn? If you feel like something is holding you back, don't let it. What do I learn from what I did wrong or from what someone did to me? What do I learn? What do I learn to imitate it? A future and a better present. That is, focus on the gift that God gives you, which is the life you have today. Try to get out of those slaveries, those Mitzrayim, those narrow places. Try to get out, try to learn, as we said, from all your past. Try to build your future by learning from the lessons of your past toward a promising future of freedom, of freedom. Like Natan Sharansky, going back to the first story, how did he hold on during such an unjust imprisonment? Out of love for his people, love for the land of Israel, love for his wife, love for his book of Psalms, love for God, the Almighty Creator. Why? They tied him up in a way, they imprisoned him, but so what? He guarded his freedom like a treasure. His freedom. And the freedom you have in your heart, no one knows. No one can take it from you. I'm going to show you something amazing. I think that in a way it can somehow summarize what we're talking about. I want you to see this stone. This stone could be your daily life. A normal stone. And it could be your burdens, what weighs you down. It's something that's not smooth. It has a slightly rough surface. But if we start turning this stone, you'll see a beautiful amethyst. A beautiful amethyst. At first, you probably thought it was an ordinary plain stone. But we turn it over and see this beautiful amethyst. This beautiful amethyst can symbolize your life and your inner freedom. That is to say, someone or even yourself may want, whether it's from the outside or yourself, want to turn you into someone apparently normal. Just another number in a computer, an ID card, in a passport, someone else, among billions of people. But no, you have to know that you have a soul, metaphorically speaking. You have something like a diamond in the rough. You have freedom. Your soul is your freedom. What does that mean? You have the soul that God gives you. You have a diamond in the rough. Nothing in your life that seems routine is routine in itself. Every aspect of your life, if you connect to your shoresh, as it's said in Hebrew, to your root, to your soul, and you truly live freely, without being tied down by people who want to make you believe that you are someone who isn't worth anything, or even you, saying it to yourself, I'm not worth anything. No, I'm just someone normal. No, you are not just someone normal. God gives you something unique. And looking at this amethyst, God gives you something unique. Just like your fingerprint is unique in history, there was never a fingerprint like yours before you. And after you, there won't be one either. In the same way, your life and your soul are unique. God gives you a unique soul. God gives you a little toolbox, your personal qualities. Both unique strengths and weaknesses. And that combination of forces, both your strengths and your weaknesses, they are your tools to set it free. To set free, like we talked about freedom today. To set free that soul that wants to blossom. It wants to fly. It really wants to be the best it can be. Let it be. Let it be. Remove those restraints that you yourself put on yourself. Or people who told you things like you're a boy or you're a girl. You're not worth it. You this, you that. No. You are, as we said, like a diamond in the rough. You have your soul in your hands. Connect yourself to God. How do you know? You have to study the Torah, obviously. How can someone think? How do I know what God's will is for me? You have to study the Torah of the people of Israel. The Jewish sages who live by the law of the Torah. Orthodox Judaism, we have answers. God gives us His Torah. God gives us His Torah. In fact, 50 days after leaving Egypt, we received the Torah. The word Torah comes from the word Horah, which means teaching. God gives it to the people of Israel and to the whole world. The teaching, the one about what He wants from us to fix His world. God invites us to fix His world. God invites us to be His partners in the creation of this world. God watches over us every moment and gives us the most precious gift there is, which is precisely free will. And now, to sum up free will, freedom. The freedom to act, to think, and to do. God gives you the greatest treasure, which is your freedom. Freedom to choose. God obviously watches over you at every moment. And what does He want from you? That you use that freedom God gives you to do His will. The will of the Creator, the Almighty, the Master of the universe, who only wants what is good for us and wants things to go as well as possible for us. Obviously. So let's have, God willing, a 10th of Nisan filled with the energy of freedom. Let us join that impressive energy of going out, of breaking, of shattering those constraints that hold us back, that lead us to a negative place. Get out of there, break that, and go and channel all our strength toward doing God's will with joy and a good heart at every moment of our lives. May it all be filled with many blessings and much success. And I invite you to be part of what we do together in my community, if you want. That's what we want to do. Our beloved Israel High community. I invite you. Here in the comments, you have the options in the video description. If you want, you can write the word community in the comments. That's also an option. But here you have information. A link to join, God willing, my beloved community, if you are not already a part of it, Israel High. What we want is, with our freedom and free will, to do good for Israel and of course for the blessing of the whole world. May it all be with joy. To do God's will with joy and a good heart, success and blessings.